Since the season has come to a close, there has been a lot of question marks over Arsenal's transfer window. And one place that is certainly up in the air is who is going to be the backup for Saka and how Arsenal solve that problem. Now, in this video, we're going to go through a few solutions of how Arsenal could counter this by necessarily buying players or using players within their team. So if you want to find out these solutions, please like and subscribe for any more Arsenal and football content. Now, despite Saka getting continuous amount of hates online for his ability, I think we can all agree he's probably Arsenal's elite player. He is probably the best and most reliable player throughout the season, and yet again proved it in large parts this year. And his goal record and assist record keeps improving every year, and I think people forget he's just 22 years old. And not only does he still have a lot of potential, he is ultimately one of the best wingers in world football. However, he definitely does need some help out there. He has played an enormous amount of minutes for Arsenal over the last few years, almost totaling to around 4,000 each year, and at his age we can't really rely on him every game. I understand his brilliance, but you gotta give other people a chance in there. This has led towards the end of the season, obviously a lot of memes about him limping, but he was getting kicked a lot in games, and this is not necessarily reliable because he could get injured at any given moment, and we've seen him be very tired and his performances drop off towards the end of the season the last few years. Now, we've not necessarily had a proper right winger other than Saka. Nelson can play there and has played there before, but hasn't really been given many opportunities and has many injury problems himself. But with the rumours that he is potentially going to leave this summer, I think it is finally time that we solve this issue. Now, the first solution is something I think Arsenal have been trying to do the last few years, and that is rely a lot on the squad players within the team. Now, I know the squad players haven't been brilliant for us the last few years, but I do think a lot of them haven't got significant game time to really show their abilities. And if we want to spend money in this market on a striker and a midfielder, even maybe another defender, then we're going to have to accept that we can't buy another winger. Now, there is definitely players that can play out there. Gabriel Jesus has played out on the right wing before, and people like Trossard have, and although they are not as effective because they aren't that superstar level like Saka is, we ultimately need someone that's going to be very high on ball retention and recycling the ball back to other positions. This is something Saka is very key for us. He always keeps the ball in tight areas and can work really well with the players down his right side, such as Odegaard and Ben White. Maybe giving someone like Gabriel Jesus in there could be a problem because he's not necessarily that composed and could lose the ball under pressure, but he is very good dribbler, so having that technically secure player definitely helps us. Maybe even playing someone like Vieira there that we have tried before, but I think he should be able to be good at that role. He's got a very different play style to Saka, of course, but we just need someone that can recycle the play and be a significant crosser, or someone that's going to create chances when we need it to. But I believe that we will probably get that around the rest of the pitch, so it's not necessarily a big issue here. Now, realistically, all these options aren't going to be good enough long term, so if anything was to happen to Saka, that would obviously be really bad. But I think that these players could fit in and fill in when we need to in certain games where we can definitely change up our dynamics going forward. Now, another option that has definitely come alight recently is the fact that you could play Martinelli potentially in that right wing. Now, in the last game of the season against Everton, he played there and you saw him get the ball a lot more, and I think he was very much a lot better in that game. Now, he still made mistakes and the angles didn't necessarily help him, especially when he tried to shoot with the ball, but he had a lot more freedom being able to go past players and actually create stuff down the space down there. He got the ball a lot, and I think it was the most we actually saw from him in a few months, and that is definitely up to the Martinelli level that you want. Now, the issue is Martinelli isn't going to help the ball retention and isn't going to keep us the ball. He's a very much more progressive winger. He will like running at defenders and going at them. This means you need a sort of Saka type on the other side to balance it out, and I don't know if Arsenal have that. Trossard barely got the ball in that game, and I don't think he's brilliant on the ball generally, especially when it comes to passing. However, maybe if you have Timber playing in a left back spot and he can help the retention out there against teams that are going to sit deep, this could work, but I wouldn't necessarily think this is the go-to in this situation. And potentially a better shout could be to just look to the academy. Now, Arsenal do have a lot of great academy players, and I know that a lot of people want them to play a lot more. First of all, we're going to speak about Ethan Nwaneri. Now, we all know about him, youngest Premier League debutant ever, and has been doing brilliant things within the under-23s and under-21s. He's playing well above his age bracket, and he is a mix of an Odegaard and Saka sort of player. He loves being on the ball, dribbling past players. I think he can really help that ball retention and actually keep us the ball a lot, and how good he is technically, and he's got brilliant touch, I think can help us. Now, he's not necessarily going to be at that Saka level at going past people in the angles that you get on that right side, and he is still very young, so obviously you don't want to play him every game, but if we need to, we did when we needed to play Saka, we played him in left back. Maybe this could be the opportunity to actually bring another youngster through. Another brilliant option for this could be Amaro Koisa-Duberry. Now this player is a little bit older at 19 years of age and has been a baller for the youth academies recently. Now if you've seen that clip of when Arsenal scored a really good goal in their academy team and it looked like Smith Rowe, Saka and Havertz, all the same players that we do in the main roster, then you will notice Koisa-Duberry looks like Saka. How he plays with the ball, how he cuts inside, how he's very good technically and very aware on it is so similar. And I think from a play style perspective, he plays very similar. Obviously not going to be at the same level as Saka, but if these youngsters are ever going to be anything at this club, then it's a good time to play them if we need to. And I think we should start putting these players on the bench, given if we get too many injuries or people like Jesus aren't working out on that side. However, it still may be an ask, and we know Arteta doesn't really like bringing these youngsters in that much. He's also wanted by teams such as Newcastle, so it could be hard to keep him, but it's definitely an option right now. And lastly, probably the main option, probably the best option for the club is to just sign someone that can play there for Saka when he isn't there. Now, this is a lot harder than a lot of people think it is. You've got to get someone that is willing to sit on the bench for Saka for most of the time, or someone that can be versatilely play on the right and left and maybe even up front. These players are not cheap and these players are not easy to come by. It isn't exactly like buying a midfielder where there is a lot to choose from. And you've got to consider a lot in this circumstance. Arsenal aren't going to spend too much money on this position because I still don't think it's the priority, because obviously striker, centre mid, even left back's probably more important to the team, because ultimately you expect Saka to be there nearly 99% of the time. This is why I really like the links with someone like Tiskankov. Tiskankov played for Genoa last year, Ukrainian international, used to be really good on Football Manager if you know him. Now let's not get it twisted, he is no way near the level of Bukayo Saka. If you look at all his stats, he's lower than him, but that is to be expected considering of the player that he is. But I do like his defensive work. His defensive work is almost at the same as Saka, or at least on the same sort of level, and probably could improve under a better team. And he is a little bit different to Saka because he is more direct player. He got 8 goals and 7 assists in the Liga last season, but didn't score any penalties, and you put that with Saka, that is not that far off. And overall per 90, he's got really good stats going forward. He's got non-penalty expected goals and assists at 0.5. He got 0.3 assists and is getting around a 0.3 non-penalty expected goals. And for the rumoured 25 to 30 million pounds that Arsenal want to spend, I think it could be another direct approach option like Trossard, but this time on the right wing. He's left-footed and loves playing cutting in off the right. Tiskankov is actually shown as well to be a very pacey player and can get in behind, and with his wages not being an astronomical amount and being at the age of 26, he's a pretty decent age and can be a good option if Saka's not going to be there. Now you don't want this guy starting all the time, but he could definitely be a good player to come in, and for the price I don't think it's necessarily a bad deal at all. Now the other option that is probably liked by most of the fans is Michael Olise. Now obviously wanted a lot by big teams, Man City and Chelsea have been linked before and they didn't get him, and after a brilliant end to the season since Glasner joined Crystal Palace, a lot of people are very interested in this guy. Now looking at his stats, you can definitely see why. This guy's creating, he's scoring, he's assisting so much per game. He's one of the best attacking threats in the Premier League, especially outside the top 6. He's not the best passer in the world, he doesn't make a huge amount of passes, but I think that is down to how Crystal Palace play. Very counter-attacking, very quick style of play. His progressive passes are really good, he's really good at carrying the ball from deep, and he's pretty good at defending as well with brilliant blocks and interception. Now the issue is with Olise is that he would be a perfect replacement for Saka when he needs to come in, but will Olise accept being on the bench? Probably not, considering he knows he could go and get a start at teams like United or Chelsea. It also cost a lot of money, 50-60 mil maybe probably to get him in, and his release clause has been getting more and more higher every single year, and I don't know if he necessarily wants to come to Arsenal at all. And a big issue is at just the age of 22, for the last 2 seasons he's actually really struggled with injuries, missing 21 games for Crystal Palace since 2023 of June. That is something that would be a major concern because we need someone to be there and be ready if Saka can't play, and Saka is usually reliable as it is. Now ultimately I think he would be a brilliant player for Arsenal, but I don't know if he necessarily is viable to get right now, and it could be a lot more difficult. And the last option that I'm going to talk about is Johan Bakayoko from PSV. Now any Arsenal fan will probably remember this guy when he destroyed Kivior when we played against PSV in the Champions League, and this guy is an out and out winger completely. He's actually very versatile and can do a lot of many different roles. He can keep the ball and pass it back, or he can just run past defenders with brilliant electricity. He is definitely one of the best all-round wingers on the market right now, and even looking at his stats, he's creating so much per game. It's like Olise he is obviously in a lower league, but the Eredivisie does scale up quite recently quite well. His progressive carries per 90 are amazing. He's not the best passer, even though he does do a good amount of passes per game, because he prefers the ball to the feet and running at players. And if you want someone that can replace Saka, I think it'd be a brilliant option. But I'm not sure if we necessarily want to join, because he did reject a 40 mil offer from Palace just last year, so he clearly has high ambitions, and I don't know if sitting on Arsenal's bench is what he's going to want, because Saka is probably the hardest position to get in our team. Now, he would also cost quite a lot of money, but if you've got the money left over, you can definitely spend 50 to 60 mil on him and work him into the team, given he is only 21 years old. Now, there's definitely other players that I've spoke about before. If you want to go and check out my other video, I did Arsenal's perfect transfer window, where I spoke about Nico Williams and Pedro Neto, who could be brilliant options in that wing position. You've also got players like Xavi Simons, who could be a brilliant player in midfield that could give us a bit more versatility, but ultimately it could be quite hard to get a player in the market, and it'd be very interesting to see if Arsenal do end up actually going in for any of these players in the end. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Arsenal will go out and buy a player, or do you think they'll try and use one of the solutions in here? And what do you think they should do to solve the Saka issue? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.